What if your greatest weakness hides your greatest power? Addiction takes many forms. It can be the craving for substances like alcohol or drugs, the pull of endless scrolling on social media, or habits we repeat without thinking, whether it's gambling, overeating, or even the need for constant approval. Sometimes it's a belief or idea we hold on to so tightly that it shapes every choice we make. At first glance, addiction looks like losing control, being trapped by something outside ourselves, unable to stop. But this view misses an important truth. Addiction exposes a fundamental part of who we are, what drives us, what we seek, and what we avoid. It uncovers patterns in our minds and hearts, showing how desire shapes behavior and how dependency forms. This isn't just about weakness or failure. It's a window into the tension between what we want and what controls us. It asks a deeper question. Can we learn to face these forces and regain authority over our lives? The answer lies in a process more profound than simply quitting. Overcoming addiction means gaining mastery over the self. It means recognizing the impulses that bind us and choosing a different path. It requires understanding the nature of dependency and building autonomy, the ability to act freely according to reason and values rather than habit or compulsion. This journey involves willpower, but not in a superficial way. It's a disciplined practice of awareness and choice. True freedom emerges not by escaping desire altogether, but by transforming our relationship to it. Addiction teaches us about the fragile balance between control and surrender, dependence and independence. By studying this balance, we uncover the tools needed to reclaim our lives. The story ahead will explore these ideas step by step, how addiction works, what it reveals about the human condition, and how mastering it can open the door to genuine freedom. This is not a simple fix. It is a process of self-discovery and change that reshapes identity, habits, and purpose. It's a path toward living not as a prisoner of forces beyond us, but as an author of our own existence. Desire has been a subject of thought for thousands of years. Ancient philosophers recognized that what we want can both drive us forward and hold us back. The Buddha taught that craving is the root of suffering. When we chase after things, whether pleasure, approval, or security, we set ourselves up for disappointment. Every desire leads to another, and the cycle never ends. It binds us to the present moment, to endless seeking, and keeps the mind restless. At the same time, the Stoics believed in controlling the self through reason. They argued that external things, including desires, should not dictate our actions. Self-discipline was key. By mastering impulses, we avoid being ruled by fleeting urges. Both these traditions show that desire and attachment are central to the human condition. They reveal the tension between what pulls us and what we can control. Modern science confirms what these ancient thinkers observed. Addiction alters the brain's wiring, especially in areas related to reward and motivation. The brain releases chemicals that create feelings of pleasure when we engage in certain behaviors, whether it's taking a drug, checking notifications, or winning a bet. These chemicals reinforce the action, encouraging repetition. Over time, the brain starts to expect this stimulation and craves it. What feels like pleasure becomes a need, but it's an illusion. The temporary satisfaction does not lead to lasting happiness or meaning. Instead, it creates a loop where the person seeks more to feel normal, not truly fulfilled. This cycle of craving, action, and reward shapes habits that can be difficult to break. A notification on the phone triggers a habit loop: anticipation, checking, momentary satisfaction, and then waiting again. Gambling follows a similar path: risk, thrill, payout, and then the desire to repeat the experience. Even simple habits like overeating or procrastination fit into this pattern. The cycle hijacks decision-making and narrows focus to immediate relief rather than long-term benefit. These repeated actions begin to shape identity. When behavior is dominated by addiction, it can feel like the person is defined by what they crave. The habit becomes part of who they are. This creates a barrier to change because the struggle is not just physical but psychological. Breaking free means interrupting the cycle and questioning the relationship to desire itself. Understanding this loop is crucial to stepping out of it. Without awareness, the pattern repeats silently, controlling choices and limiting freedom. In short, addiction is not just about the object of desire. It's a process where the mind and brain fall into a pattern that reinforces dependence. This pattern challenges the possibility of autonomy. Recognizing the nature of addiction helps frame the problem beyond moral failure or weakness. It becomes a matter of retraining the mind, rewiring responses, and reclaiming control over impulses. Only then can true freedom begin to emerge. Addiction often reveals more than it hides. It uncovers parts of ourselves we usually avoid or overlook. Behind every craving lies something deeper, a gap or discomfort that pushes us toward temporary relief. This could be fear, the quiet ache of loneliness, or pain we carry but do not express. Sometimes it is the search for purpose in a world that feels confusing or empty. When these parts go unaddressed, the urge to fill them grows stronger, and addiction becomes a way to escape. In this sense, addiction acts like a mirror. It reflects what we want but do not have. It points to what is missing, not just physically but in meaning or connection. The things we reach for, whether substances, habits, or distractions, often promise answers or comfort, yet they only mask the underlying need. This creates a cycle where the surface is pursued endlessly while the root remains untouched. Philosophers have long examined this struggle. Existential thinkers like Sartre and Kierkegaard described human freedom as both a gift and a burden. Freedom means we are responsible for choosing who we become, but this responsibility can feel overwhelming. Some respond by fleeing from it, seeking safety in routines or addictions. Addiction then becomes a way to avoid the challenge of freedom, the weight of making choices without clear guidance. It is easier to surrender control than to face uncertainty and the responsibility that comes with it. This avoidance limits growth and keeps the person trapped. However, the moment we stop hiding from these inner conflicts is the moment real power begins. Facing fear, pain, and the emptiness head-on opens the door to change. It is a form of courage to look clearly at what addiction shows us about ourselves without judgment or denial. This honesty becomes the foundation of true mastery. Within each person lies this power, waiting to be claimed. It is not a force imposed from outside, but something discovered inside. Recognizing addiction as a reflection of the self allows a shift in perspective. Instead of fighting symptoms alone, the work focuses on understanding and transforming what drives behavior. This path requires patience and clarity, but leads to freedom beyond habit and dependence. The journey toward this freedom is a return to oneself. It involves questioning old patterns and accepting responsibility for the choices ahead. Addiction, then, is no longer just a problem, but a doorway. Through it, we learn what we must face to reclaim control and live with intention. This is where true transformation begins, not by escaping what limits us, but by embracing and mastering it. Breaking free from addiction begins with a clear understanding of the situation. The first step is awareness, recognizing the patterns that control behavior without denial or excuse. This means observing thoughts and actions honestly, without judgment. Acceptance follows. It is not resignation, but acknowledgement of reality as it is. Only when the truth is fully seen can change start. Denial keeps the cycle intact. Seeing addiction clearly creates the space to act differently. Once awareness is established, the next stage involves reclaiming control. This means rewiring the mind's automatic responses. Habits, by nature, form through repetition, embedding themselves in daily routines. Changing them requires effort and attention. Replacing harmful behaviors with healthier alternatives rewires the brain over time. It is a process of breaking old connections and forming new ones. Thought patterns, too, must be challenged. Automatic beliefs that justify or enable addiction need to be questioned. This shift in thinking helps weaken the grip of dependency. Building strength to maintain change depends on two key practices: mindfulness and discipline. Mindfulness involves observing the present moment without distraction. It helps identify urges as they arise, allowing a pause between impulse and action. This pause creates freedom to choose a different response. Discipline is the commitment to consistent effort, especially when motivation wanes. It reinforces new habits and supports long-term growth. Together, these tools form a foundation for resilience. Many have walked this path and offer lessons through their stories. Take the example of someone addicted to gambling. For years, their life was dominated by chasing wins and avoiding losses. The turning point came when they accepted their problem without excuse. They joined a support group, learned to recognize triggers, and replaced gambling with new routines like exercise and meditation. Over time, their identity shifted from gambler to someone who controls their choices. Another case involves technology addiction. A person overwhelmed by constant notifications and social media replaced passive scrolling with focused reading and scheduled breaks. Awareness of the habit's hold helped break the cycle. Support from friends encouraged accountability. Gradually, their attention improved and dependence weakened. These stories underline the importance of community. Humans are social beings, and connection plays a vital role in transformation. Aristotle described friendship as a partnership in striving toward the good life. Modern psychology confirms that support networks increase success in overcoming challenges. Sharing struggles and progress with others fosters responsibility and belonging. Isolation often deepens addiction, while connection builds strength. Balancing self-compassion with discipline is crucial. Discipline demands effort and limits, creating structure to sustain change. Self-compassion offers patience and understanding when setbacks occur. Addiction recovery is rarely a straight line. Mistakes happen, and harsh judgment only fuels shame and relapse. Treating oneself with kindness while maintaining commitment encourages persistence. It is a balance of firmness and gentleness, holding oneself accountable without cruelty. Ultimately, mastering addiction requires a combination of insight, action, and support. Awareness opens the door. Rewiring thoughts and habits builds a new path. Mindfulness and discipline keep the journey steady. Community provides encouragement and connection. Self-compassion sustains hope and resilience. Together, these elements transform dependence into autonomy. This is not a quick fix, but a gradual process of growth and freedom. The chains loosen as the person claims control and lives by conscious choice. Freedom is often understood simply as the absence of limits, the ability to do whatever we want without barriers. But true freedom is deeper than just removing obstacles. It is the capacity to make choices that shape who we are, to act intentionally rather than react automatically. Freedom means having the power to define oneself, to decide what matters, and to live in alignment with those values. It is not merely escaping chains, but gaining control over the direction of life. When addiction controls a person, identity narrows into a role defined by dependence. The person feels caught, as if driven by forces beyond their reach. But mastering addiction shifts this perspective. The individual moves from feeling powerless to owning their story. They become active agents, choosing how to respond to urges, challenges, and opportunities. This change is not just external behavior, but a transformation of self-understanding. The sense of victimhood fades, replaced by a clear sense of agency. This shift reveals itself in many ways. Creativity often flourishes when the mind is free from distraction and compulsion. Without addiction's grip, energy once spent on satisfying cravings can focus on building, inventing, and expressing. Peace becomes possible when the constant inner struggle ceases, allowing space for calm and clarity. Purpose emerges as choices align with meaningful goals rather than momentary relief. Relationships gain authenticity because interactions are no longer driven by need or avoidance, but by genuine connection. Interestingly, overcoming addiction involves recognizing the limits of control itself. At first, the effort to master impulses seems like a fight against an enemy outside, but deeper progress comes from accepting the unpredictability of life and the flow of experience. This surrender does not mean giving up power. Instead, it brings a different kind of strength. By letting go of the illusion that every outcome can be controlled, the person frees attention to respond wisely to what arises. This openness allows freedom to expand beyond narrow desires and fixed plans. In this way, freedom is paradoxical. It requires both effort and release, discipline and acceptance. It calls for commitment to change while embracing uncertainty. Mastery over addiction teaches this balance. The journey moves from trying to control every impulse to learning when to hold firm and when to let go. The result is a life lived with intention and flexibility, grounded in reality rather than illusion. Ultimately, true freedom means becoming the author of one's existence. It is a continuous process of choosing and creating, shaped by values and insight rather than habit or fear. Overcoming addiction reveals this potential, showing that freedom is not a destination but an ongoing practice. This practice opens the door to a life marked by creativity, peace, purpose, and real connection, qualities that define what it means to be truly free. True power comes from within and shows itself through consistent action. To keep control over one's life, daily habits are essential. These are small choices made repeatedly, shaping who we become. Simple acts like paying attention to our thoughts, pausing before reacting, or setting clear intentions for the day create a foundation of autonomy. It means noticing when old habits pull us back and deciding to act differently. This ongoing awareness strengthens the ability to choose rather than fall into automatic patterns. Growth rarely happens in comfort. Discomfort is part of change. Instead of avoiding challenges, it becomes a signal for learning. When things feel difficult or uncertain, it offers a chance to practice patience and persistence. Facing discomfort without turning away builds resilience. This process helps reshape how we respond to obstacles and discomfort, making us stronger and more adaptable over time. It is through this practice that deeper freedom takes shape. Setbacks and failures are not signs of defeat, but moments to refine mastery. Each slip reveals something new about triggers and weaknesses. These moments provide valuable information, inviting reflection rather than blame. By examining what led to the setback, adjustments can be made to better support growth. This approach turns obstacles into tools. Instead of ending progress, setbacks become part of the path, helping to sharpen self-discipline and understanding. Seeing struggles as a path rather than a problem changes perspective. Challenges are opportunities to connect with deeper parts of ourselves and develop real freedom. This freedom is not granted by external circumstances, but earned through steady effort and clear choice. It grows from engaging honestly with the difficulties of life and transforming them into sources of strength. By embracing this process, every person can discover the power within to live with intention and control. This journey is ongoing, requiring commitment and patience. It is less about quick fixes and more about building habits that support autonomy over the long term. The true reward is not just escaping addiction or hardship, but developing a way of living grounded in awareness and freedom. Through daily practice, openness to challenge, and learning from setbacks, the path to mastery unfolds. This path leads to a life shaped not by compulsion, but by conscious choice. A life where freedom becomes a lived reality, accessible to anyone willing to walk the road. Think back to the beginning, when addiction felt like an unbreakable chain, holding tight and defining the limits of a person's life. Now imagine that same person, step by step, reclaiming control. They no longer respond to urges automatically, but pause, consider, and choose their actions. What once seemed impossible becomes part of daily reality. The journey from dependence to autonomy is real and available to anyone willing to face the challenge. This transformation shows that power isn't something outside waiting to be found. It is already inside, waiting to be claimed. The chains you break today forge the freedom you live tomorrow. Each effort to resist, each moment of awareness, builds strength for the future. Freedom is created through choices, not given as a gift. It requires courage to confront old patterns and determination to create new paths. But with every step taken, a new version of self emerges, one that is not controlled by past habits but guided by conscious will. Now, consider your own life. What addiction or habit holds you back? Which part of yourself remains unmastered? This is not a question of blame or shame, but an invitation to recognize where power lies. The path to freedom begins with that recognition. Reflect on what you can change, what patterns you are ready to challenge. This is the start of unlocking the power within. If this journey resonates, there are others walking similar paths. Communities exist where struggles are shared, victories celebrated, and support offered. Joining such a space can provide connection and accountability, strengthening the effort. Transformation is not only an individual process, but also a collective one. Sharing experiences deepens understanding and reminds us we are not alone. In the next video, we will explore how this internal power connects to wider aspects of life, how mastering oneself influences relationships, work, and purpose. Until then, take time to reflect on your own story. The power to change is within reach. The choice to use it is yours. Thank you for listening to this power-packed educational content. If this is the kind of content you're looking for, kindly like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Thank you.